So you've mentioned Infinity Pool a few times. Tell us more.
So Infinity Pool is the new movie by Brandon Cronenberg, who made Antiviral, which I think was very kind of underrated, and Possessor with Andrea Riseborough, which, if you remember, I very much enjoyed. New film stars Alexander Skarsgård as a washed-up already writer. 6 years ago, he wrote a book that probably only got published because he's married into wealth and his father-in-law is a media mogul. Anyway, we meet him and his wife, Em, played by Cleopatra Coleman, in an anonymous, glamorous hotel, staring out at a beautiful beach in this kind of absolutely idyllic environment. He says, "Where are we? Where are we?" The fact is, they could be anywhere. They're kind of nowhere, because where they are is in a hotel compound in a comparatively poor country, but the hotel is surrounded, the compound is surrounded by barbed wire fences to keep the locals out. At the beginning, we see somebody protesting on the beach, making a protest statement about this, but generally they're kept apart. There is also apparently a town nearby. He says, does anyone think the town is real? Sorry, why would they have a Chinese restaurant? So the whole thing is like this kind of enclave of wealth in the middle of this environment in which the country around them is poor, and people, dealing with real sort of, proper problems. Mia Goth, who of course was last week in Pearl, which we talked about, and you said to me, "Is Mia Goth her real name?"
Because it's such a fantastic name.
Her real name, full name, is Mia Gypsy Mello da Silva Goth.
I mean, beat that.
I know. It's like, okay, and you win the prize, therefore, for the best name. So Mia Goth is one of the other guests who comes up to James, Alexander Skarsgård, and said, "I loved your book." And he says, "Really?" She says, "I just loved your book. You must come out with me and my husband, And he's attracted to her, but he's more knocked out by the fact that she loves his book. As his wife said, "You've finally met your fan club." And he says, "I knew there must be somewhere." So then what happens is the four of them go outside the compound to a remote beach, which they've been taken to. And on the way back, he's driving the car drunk and he hits somebody and he gets arrested. And suddenly he discovers that there is an eye for an eye policy of justice on this once you're outside of the enclaves of the hotel, the posh compound. Except they have a really weird program, which is that you can be doubled, and basically a stand-in of you can be executed on your behalf. And suddenly he starts to find himself in this world in which it's not just rich and poor, it's not just incomers and inhabitants. It's like you're kind of at war with yourself. The whole thing is playing out in this really sort of, as I said, this enclosed environment, rich hotel, poor country, authority, death penalty, but a way of escaping the death penalty through a process which is completely weird. And is it real, or are you imagining it? And at one point, his wife says, am I dreaming? And in fact, the film begins in darkness with him saying something that seems completely absurd and inconsequential, and you realize that he's dreaming. So the whole thing has a kind of nightmarish logic to it. But what it also has is this real sense of fun. I mean, it is satirical. It's satirical in the way like a Buñuelian surreal satire would be, taking satirical swipes at the bourgeoisie. On the one hand, it is a kind of class satire about, the rich are not like you and me, to quote F. Scott Fitzgerald. On the other hand, it's also about the way in which everyone is their own double. The Dostoevskian idea of the double has been kind of, it's run throughout literature.
What does that mean, everyone is their own double?
It means exactly that. It means that you have the ego and the id. It means you have the external you and the internal you. That if you ever, and I'm not saying this flippantly, if you ever go to therapy, one of the things that will come up very quickly is that there's the you that's presented and there's the you underneath. And, it's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that kind of idea that everybody, you may present as lovely, friendly, avuncular Simon Mayo.
But underneath.
Yeah, but underneath, filthy, crawling, bestial werewolf.
Damn it, you spotted that.
Precisely.
You're not coming back to our house ever again.
So there is this idea that that everyone is constantly living a double existence, and it's then given a sort of science fiction, surreal, fantastical twist. But it keeps its feet close enough to the ground that even as this stuff is playing out, that is absolutely what? Sorry, pardon? How? That the film still has a kind of an understandable logic. Alexander Skarsgård is great because he's doing this. He's like this kind of he's this idiot fall guy. I mean, for a start, the fact that he's this failed author who is just completely overwhelmed by the fact that somebody has read and apparently loved his book, and then you have
excuse me, we're all like that.
And then you have Mia Goth, who I am starting to think is, well, not starting to think, Mia Goth is a remarkable screen presence. What she does in X, what she does in Pearl, what she does in this, what happens is she flips between being on the one hand understated and on the other hand absolutely unhinged with the ease of somebody who is like inhabiting different personalities. The film has, in terms of its kind of fantastical or science fiction-y elements, it deals with all them in a way which is really trippy, really hallucinogenic. It's got these incredibly it's got visuals that kind of reminded me to some extent of Nick Winding Refn's work on Neon Demon. There's quite a lot of Gaspar Noé in there in terms of the sort of extreme cinema, but extreme cinema in a very kind of playful way. It's got absolutely brilliant effects work by Dan Martin. And it's very physical effects, which again, that kind of calls back to why Possessor worked, because the effects in Possessor felt very physical. I was thinking also of Ben Wheatley's In the Earth. He's called In the Earth, isn't it? That, with all that stuff with the mushrooms and the kind of hallucinogenic.
Does anyone have sex with a car? Is it that extreme cinema?
The answer to that question is no, but weirdly enough, it's kind of, because obviously in the case of that particular movie, Titan, that related to David Cronenberg, who's Brandon Cronenberg's father's film, Crash, which I think you could make a triangular connection between that and this. I think that's what you were suggesting, wasn't it? I just followed that particular thread.
Exactly. I was just laying it. And
yeah. But no, it's in that kind of realm of wow. Now, I've seen this twice, and I have just enjoyed the heck out of it both times. There are things in it that are really funny, really, really laugh out loud, properly funny. There are things in it that are sort of jaw-dropping, like, well, I didn't expect to see that on screen today, and and wow. And then there are ideas in it that are cerebral, but because it's so fleshy, because it's so squishy, because it's so...
Is that a good thing?
Yeah. Tactile. It's tactile. You never feel that what you're getting is a kind of an intellectual lecture. I mean, some of the ideas in it, weirdly enough, actually chime very closely with some of the ideas in Christopher Nolan's film, The Prestige, which I still think is, Nolan's great underrated masterpiece, although actually probably not underrated now. I think people have now sort of come to accept that is a brilliant film. But those ideas about who are you and why does the idea of the doppelganger resonate so much and has resonated so much through literature and film? That it's a really, really common idea. Why is the idea of the doppelganger so disturbing? And I think that what Brandon Cronenberg does, he takes all this stuff, he takes the class warfare stuff, he takes to some extent the gender warfare stuff, he takes the idea of the doppelganger and the doubling and he puts them all together in this great big stewing fantasy morass.
Sounds terrible.
It's wonderful.
No,
it's wonderful. I came out of it both times with an absolute spring in my step, and and light of heart, thinking, more of this,
more of the flesh,
more of the flesh. Long live the new flesh. Which I'm sorry is a David Cronenberg reference, so I'm sorry that must be very, very annoying. Same as meet the new flesh, same as the old flesh.
Yes. Does that work?
No, but it's good though.
All right, okay.
Go see it. I want you to see it because I want to know what you think about it.
Well, it sounds, as soon as you say extreme cinema, I'm thinking of...
You're looking heavy of heart.
I know, because I'm thinking of Men. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, it's much better than Men.
Yeah, but I just couldn't bear that film. So...
Oh, okay.
But extreme cinema is not my thing. So is it extreme cinema for people who don't like extreme cinema?
No.
Okay. So I might...
you might go see Rye Lane.
I might see Rye Lane again, and then I might look at the BBFC app to tell me about all the bits in it.
Honestly, I haven't even looked at the BBFC description, and I can't begin to imagine what it says.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.